Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's featured Reddit stories are from MaliciousCompliance. Story 1 today is by Rotom Roomba. I used my meal plan to feed over 120 less fortunate people. This happened my freshman year of college about 20 years ago. My university had just invested in a big new dining hall, and to help pay for their investment required all new students to buy a 150 meal plan both semesters. This was a big financial burden from a lower middle-class family, but my parents pooled funds to help me out and make it happen. Shortly into my first semester, I found out from friends that the meals you didn't use didn't roll over. Since I lived off campus, I knew I wouldn't be able to use them all. Heading into November, I realized I would end up with 60 to 75 meals left over, and I complained about this a lot to family and friends because it seemed like such a waste. In comes the plan. My freshman year of college was also my cousin's senior year, and we hung out pretty often. He was the biggest trickster or prankster you ever met. One night while we were drinking, he says, "What if you brought a bunch of homeless people to use up your meals? How much would that tick off those self-righteous B-words?" We laughed all night, but the more I thought about the idea, the more I started to like it. We talked all weekend about it and hatched a plan. On Monday morning, we went down to the local Salvation Army around the corner. I have grown to really despise this organization, but in the early 2000s in small-town USA, that's what we had. We told the lady at the desk I would like to feed people in need with my meal plan. She was hesitant at first, but she said she was working with people that this would be a huge blessing to, especially during the holiday season. She helped me organize 2 days the following week where around 30 people would meet to eat at the dining hall. I would wear a certain hat so they could find me, and we would go eat. The day finally arrived and all kinds of people were there. There were homeless people in tattered clothes. There were families with kids that seemed excited to eat out. There was even one family I will always remember that seemed embarrassed to take a handout, but I made an effort to talk to everybody and made them feel welcomed. At noon, we headed into the dining hall. I walked up to the lady at the entrance and said, "These people are with me. They are my friends. I would like to swipe them in." She looked confused, but reluctantly said, "Okay." To say we got every reaction humanly possible would be an understatement. There were staff that were obviously annoyed with the influx of diners. There were students that were laughing. There were students that were giving me the silent clap. There were snobbish faculty members that seemed to be disgusted at the type of people coming into the dining hall. I didn't care at all. Eventually, a head staff member came up and said they knew what I was doing and they didn't like it. I said, "These are my friends eating with me. I paid for these meals. Am I doing anything wrong?" She was stumped. The next day, the same situation happened with the same reactions. It seemed that I had caused quite a stir on campus, and it just so happened that the university president was eating there that day. She came up to me and said even though she would ask that I not tell my friends to do the same thing with their meals as the staff couldn't handle the influx of diners, that she was proud that her students had the heart to do something for others like that. The following semester, I did the exact same thing. I even used my meals sparingly so I could bring more people. The one memory that will always stick out in my head is the family with the little kids so excited to go to the pizza bar and soft-serve ice cream machine giggling the whole time. To this day, it's still one of the proudest moments of my life. Me and my friends and my family still have a drink and chuckle over the story and the snooty, angry reactions I got. That's amazing, OP. These people basically were trying to rip everybody off and make them pay for the dining hall by forcing them to spend a large amount of money on the food, and they knew a lot of people wouldn't be using it. I guess if you didn't want to overwhelm the staff, you could have invited like 20 or 30 people a day so that they have enough food to prepare for everybody. But it's actually really nice that the university president was happy that you did this instead of like going off on you. She basically said just that. Be careful that you don't overwhelm the staff, but this is great that you're doing this. You paid for it. You get to use it whenever you want to. You're basically paying to feed all these people, and that's really kind of you. Just a last tidbit, I cannot stand it when universities and places like this don't let your meals roll over. Like, why wouldn't they? You paid for it. Why wouldn't you have meals for the next semester? Down in the comments was a tiny little exchange that actually introduced me to a new subreddit that I gotta check out at some point. Top comment by TalentCard815 said heartwarming compliance. Underneath that by KPSI355. r/DeliciousCompliance is a sub, smiley face. And underneath that by B Slumlord. Oh my god, I'm in love with that sub. Thanks for sharing. Seriously loving all the extra pickle posts. That's one that I think that I'm going to have to start sharing because food-related ones are fun sometimes. We've been doing Malicious Compliance for a while, but I'm definitely going to have to check out some of the Delicious Compliance stories sometime soon. Our next story is by White Cherry Rose. You want proof that my fiancé is sick? You got it. I'm a 25 female and I'm engaged to my fiancé, Joey, who's a 26 male. He recently had surgery on his leg and hip, but there were complications and he's been sick and weak since. We try not to ask for help, but this has put a big financial strain on us to the point where we've spent our wedding savings on his recovery. We are fine with this, but if we need to have a courthouse wedding, we're cool with it. We just want him to be healthy, but we did set up a temporary donation page to help him with the expenses. A friend of mine, Carla, who's 25, donated $10 about a month ago, and I reached out to her to thank her. Last week we posted an update, not asking for more money, but just to let people know that Joey had another setback, and the doctors are creating an all-new treatment plan for him. Carla commented publicly and said the following: I'm beginning to question if he's actually been sick this long or if y'all are just trying to get more money for your wedding. Who takes this long to recover from surgery, especially when you're an athlete? I said, I'm very offended and appalled that you would accuse us of faking anything. Maybe you're just having a bad day or a moment of bad judgment, but how shamefully low of you. She replied, I want my donation back unless you can show us proof that he's sick, in a hospital bed or sitting at the doctor's office. Anything? I sent her $10 to get her off her backs, but I also sent her a video with Joey's approval, the proof she asked for. One of the concerns Joey had is that he will get severely nauseous if he eats protein, which is what he's supposed to be doing, and when he overexerts himself, which he does sometimes. I sent her a video of him dry heaving into an emesis bag in the middle of PT. Now, one of his doctors asked us to record his PT so they can see the progression of him not feeling well to hopefully make some adjustments. So I didn't take this video just to send to Carla, but to me it seemed like solid proof since she was asking for it. She said, What the heck? I have emetophobia. I didn't know this, and this just triggered me so bad. I hope you're happy with yourself. I feel like I've been traumatized. I said, So now you have $10 more to process this trauma in therapy. Down in the comments by Shibe of Wisdom. Oh, you have emetophobia? Where's your proof? Either a written diagnosis or testimonial from your primary care provider will be enough. Otherwise, you're just doing this for attention and sympathy. Malicious compliance is just often a healthy dose of FAFO. F around and find out. Our last story today is by Nighthawk 580. I'm just a bartender and you know everything? Okay, have a nice shower. Happened about 10 years ago now, and I've been working in catering and hospitality, managing pubs for about 10 years at that stage. The catering company I worked for had come up short-staffed for a smallish function or festival they were putting on. Probably max 200 people at a venue they controlled. I was in a different division, but asked to help out on the bar and the bump in and out. Easy enough, and the music was looking pretty good, so I agreed. It was in the middle of spring. The weather had not yet been really warm, so we were expecting decent numbers, but nothing special. Bringing in the bar was easy enough. The venue was massive and easily able to accommodate the truck, etc. Having a single mobile bar with just one tap tree was probably on the light side, but I figured the venue manager knew what he was doing. So I introduced myself to him and got to work. I unloaded and brought all the gear and beverage in and made a couple of attempts to discuss how we'd set up the service area. Each time, I was shut down with progressively more aggressive language until he finally told me, I've run dozens of functions in this venue. I think I know how to set it up. We really only asked for a bartender. Okay, no problem, I thought. I didn't mention to him that it had been me that had picked up the truck from the warehouse, collected the bar and 10 kegs from our supplier, as well as the other beverage package, and delivered it to him. or that I was the only one able to bump it all out at the end of the evening. So I just agreed with whatever he said and set up all he wanted. So the weather ended up being a beautiful day, about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, 27 degrees Celsius, with a light breeze, and the turnout was more like 400, much better than expected. Pretty quickly it turned out that we were struggling to keep up with the bar service, so I suggested that rather than a traditional service, we should have one person on the till, one person constantly pouring beers. In other words, never shut off the tap, and one person filling other drinks, wine, soft drinks, etc. Again, I was snapped at by the now clearly stressed venue supervisor. "You just keep serving and let me do the thinking." Okay, so now I'd had enough. Customers were getting frustrated at the slow service, and this peanut was too proud to accept advice from someone far more experienced. And then the keg blew. I was about to change it when the peanut stepped in and said he would take care of it. I checked that he knew what he was doing and was assured he'd done it 100 times and to back off and leave him to it. So I did. I watched him not uncouple the gas line and go straight for the beer lock. Happily, he had his face right in the spot, so as soon as he cracked the lock, he copped a huge spray in the face of nice warm beer foam. All through his hair and all over his glasses, wet all down the front of his shirt as well. It was glorious, and the first 30 people in line thought so as well, because they'd witnessed some of his antics. I didn't hear much out of him for the rest of the day. He asked me to change the keg when needed and pretty much stayed away from the service area. We streamlined things as well, and although it didn't end up a success as far as customer satisfaction, it was not the disaster that was brewing. OP, you get extra points just for that clever statement at the very end. What a perfect closing statement for this story. Not the disaster that was brewing. I love it. Down in the comments by Moonchaser22, I watched him not uncouple the gas line and go straight for the beer lock. I only worked as a porter at a nightclub for a few months, and even I cringed and said, "Oh no," out loud the moment I read this. Underneath that by Feather of a J, I never worked at any place where this kind of knowledge was necessary, but I could guess where this was going. And finally by Mr. Aloysius Mithrax. Yeah, great narration there because you didn't have to know anything about the process. They explained what was skipped in a great setup tone. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have an untapped day.